So great, let's go ahead and jump into it. So practicing is very personal. I just want to start off by saying that. I just want to say that the things that I'm going to be talking about are things that have worked for me well over the years and specifically in the past couple of years, I feel like I've really started to hone in on what works well for me. And so we're going to start with just some basic things that I like to do before I sit down to practice. And first off, I think this is true no matter who you are. You should be in a quiet space. You should make sure that there's no distractions. So yes, this includes the ubiquitous smartphone, tablet, computer, etc. For me, I like to put my phone into focus. I have an iPhone, and so what you can do is just put it into focus. And you, if you're concerned about important messages from family members or friends, you can have those as so that they'll come through still. So I like for me, I have my immediate family and messages that will come through, and phone calls as well. And just because those are usually the more important things. And so, but other than that, nothing else comes through. No Facebook notifications, no emails, no other texts, no Snapchat, Instagram, etc. None of that comes through when I'm practicing. And what I found is that I'm just a lot more productive when I'm able to do that. Actually, when I was younger and I had a little fewer responsibilities, I would put my phone in airplane mode so that absolutely nothing came through. But now since I'm a little bit older and I have more people to take care of in my life, I want to make sure that the important things really come through. But if you have the option, put it into airplane mode and just you'll just really be amazed at how much more productive you are. Hey, hello, Dolores. If you could just go ahead and make sure that you're muted when you come into the Zoom, that would be fantastic. But great to have you here. If you guys have any questions in the
You
chat,
just
go
said
ahead.
be muted. How do I mute?
That's going to be in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. You can just hit the audio button. It'll mute you. Thank you. All right. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, just go ahead and drop those in the chat and I'll go ahead and get to those as soon as I'm able. So yeah, just make sure that you're in a place with no distractions. And this also leads into another point that some people might disagree with this, and that's okay. So I find it's very helpful to be in a healthy place as well. And what I mean by this is to make sure it's a safe place where you can make mistakes. So if you have somebody who's constantly barging in and telling you the mistakes that you're making when you're practicing, I know some people out there might have parents they live with or other um, maybe other musicians that they live with who are tough on them. I think it's really important to find a space where you can make as many mistakes as you want. You can fail as much as you need to, and I'm going to just put that in quotations too, because for me, I really believe that you don't fail when you stop unless you stop trying. And so it's just really important to be able to make as many mistakes as you need to be able to do something effectively and comfortable, and for your body to learn how to trust to do that. So those are the two basic things that you want to make sure that you're getting into is having a quiet place. If you're in school and you only have practice rooms, then um, that's fine. Obviously, you got to work with what you got, but don't be embarrassed if you feel like you get more done if you need to like put a scar. I had some friends who used to put scarves over the door to make sure nobody could see that it was them when they were practicing, and so. If that makes you feel more comfortable and feel like you can really get into trusting yourself and your body, then do that. So great. And then the second thing that I always make sure to do when I'm starting a session is I calm my mind down. And how I do this is I do a centering technique that I borrowed from Don Green. So this one is really simple. You can even do this now. This is his advanced centering, but you can even do this before you learn the other two versions. So all you do is just pick a spot out in front of you, close your eyes, breathe, let out all the tension in your upper body, and then take two more breaths in through the nose, out through the nose. One more time. And then bring the energy from your one point up into your eyes. See, for me, I already feel more calm than I was when I even started doing this talk. And so that's one thing. And then the second thing is before I even do that, actually, I state my intentions for what I want to get done. So if it's my routine, I state which things I'm getting through my routine. If it's my actual session, I state which pieces I want to get to. And a little bit later in the talk, we'll discuss exactly how to organize what you're going to be going through on a daily basis. So yeah, just taking a minute to become present is it will drastically improve your productivity. So let's say you're practicing for a half hour. If you just take 1 minute and then you only have 29 minutes to practice, then I can almost guarantee that you're gonna be many percent more effective. And it's almost like getting 35 minutes of unproductive practice, if that makes sense. You'll get more done in the amount of time you have. So the next step for me is I like to do a little stretching, and I got this from the art of practicing. This is something that I've been doing for, gosh, at least 5, 6 years. I always do a little bit of stretching before I start. In the art of practicing, it's pretty extensive. There's, I think, 6 or 7 stretches that she recommends, and so I usually have it down to about two. Unless I do some sort of heavy physical activity in the morning, like if I went to the gym and lifted something heavy, then I'll do a little bit more just to make sure I'm feeling nice and loose. But the one I do is just like a classic ragdoll stretch, and then I have another one I do in the chair. But whatever works for you, and then that's again that's going to help you to feel more relaxed and help you get into your breathing and into your body. So as far as what to practice and how to structure that throughout your day, it really depends. It depends on your personal schedule. If you have the flexibility to spread your practicing out throughout the day, so for instance, doing one session in the morning, one in the afternoon, one in the evening. For me, that's the farthest way, and that has worked pretty well for me. I've had times in my life where when I was younger in college, I worked for my dad full time in the summer, and so I only had like maybe an hour and a half block in the evenings once I got home from work, and I was usually dog tired by then too. And so what I would do then, I would do it all in one session. So if that's all you have, then do it that way. Um, just a little bit of a side note, if you are doing a lot of practicing in one session, so I would say more than an hour. I would really recommend breaking that up. So if you're practicing for an hour, let's say, and this is something that Scott Legier does. I just found this out recently. Um, 20 minutes, take a 5 minute break, 20 minutes, take a 5 minute break, and then 20 more minutes. That's going to help you from getting overly tired. And it's going to give your brain a little bit of a break too, to make sure that you're not just overtaxing the your focus abilities. And that's again going to help you be more productive. Um, Actually, Carl Pittick told me one time, I hope he's okay with me saying this, but he used to play, I don't know if you guys remember, they used to have these little handheld games like before. It was like probably around the time that Game Boys were invented, the first handheld video game systems, and they used to make ones that were just like a single game. So like there was this one for Yahtzee, and so Carl told me that he used to play that Yahtzee game in between his practice sessions. I thought that was really hilarious. Just imagining him picturing doing that after, practicing like 30 minutes of the John Williams concerto or something. So that's how he would break up his sessions. And I thought that was funny because I used to play that game when I was a kid too, just with my sister and stuff on long car trips. So that's if you just have one block. If you have time to break it up into three, I do recommend that. Just because for me, I find that it helps me to break it up for not only for chops, but also just for up here. I just find that I focus better if I break it up into smaller sessions. So what to practice in these 3 sessions. Even I will also say too, if you are just doing the one chunk, even if it's only 30 minutes, you should probably still follow this formula or something similar to it. And again, this is just what's worked for me. There's a lot of players out there, like like Fergus would tell you just to not even worry about warming up and just go play, and just get to work on what you're doing. For me, I've always found it helpful to have a routine, and that's probably partially due to just pretty much all my teachers. Actually, all my teachers were big routine folks, and so from the first day that I set foot on a college campus, I was doing a warm up routine that I did before I did anything else. Um, so let's say, just for the sake of argument, that you have 30 minutes to practice per day and that's it. I would still break it up into these three distinct categories. And the first is going to be your warm up or your routine. The second is going to be some form of etude or solo. And then the third is going to be some sort of orchestral excerpt, if that's what you're into. If you are somebody who just plays for fun and you don't really, you're not too concerned about learning excerpts, then just work on etudes and solos. But if you're somebody who is playing in orchestras, or you're working towards being a full-time professional, you definitely want to hit some excerpts every day, just to make sure that you're applying what you can do to the repertoire as well. And also, it's also kind of easy if you're just doing all etudes to fall into the habit of not playing loud enough, which is really important for us to be able to do as horn players. So let's talk about the routine. So there's approximately 1.5 million different routines. I think I've done probably close to like 2 or 3 dozen of them at this point. I've done the Bauman routine, I've done Stamp, I've done Milan Jancic's routine, Farkas, of course. Everybody's done Farkas's routine, or some chunks of it at different points. I've done just the pre-warm up of the Farkas for my warm up, which because that one actually goes all the way from low to high, and it actually does function pretty well on its own if you've never tried that. Um, who else have I done? I tried Singer. I've done many different ones, and so what I found though is most routines, they're going to have really 3 to 4 basic elements, and the first is going to be some sort of long tone or stability exercise. The second is scales and arpeggios. And the third is some sort of flexibility. And some routines feature more of one than the other. So the Vern Reynolds routine I did for a long time too. I forgot about that. That one has a lot of flexibility and a lot of long tones in it too. The Farkas is almost all flexibility with some long tones at the end. And most of the other ones are some combination of those three. And I'll also say, when you do your scales and arpeggios, it's good to do some of them slurred and some of them tongued, or some sort of mixture, just to make sure that you're hitting your articulation every day. So yeah, whatever routine you decide, just make sure it has three of those, or those three major elements: the long tones, scales, arpeggios, and flexibility. And because those are things that you want to work on every day as a horn player. So the second thing, like I said, is your etudes and your solos. So this is really going to depend how much you do each of these is going to depend on what you're currently doing in your everyday practice life. Like for me, if it's like the summer, or if it's a time where I just finished an audition or a recital or something like that, or big performance, I love to dig into etudes. For me, it just really helps with my technique and my endurance, in a way that solos really don't. Just because in solos there's a lot more rest, unless you're doing a lot of unaccompanied stuff. But even then, you can kind of rest where you want to. There's some fermatas built in. And most etudes don't have anything like that. You just have to you're expected to go all the way through. So I find that really good for endurance. And also, like I said, for technique, it's like recently, the last time I was going through some etudes, I was doing a lot of the Maxime Alphonse Book 6, and there's really very little in the repertoire that's going to be a second call or something like that. So it's good. It makes you really push yourself, and just makes it so that you're going to be always challenging yourself and finding something new. And that the etudes a lot of the time will reveal different things in your playing that you need to work on. Like for me, always the strength in the mid register and the flexibility in the mid register is something I need to work on. And so usually whatever etude I have, that's gonna be very apparent and get me into that. Great. And then the next thing is, or the next phase, I should say, of your practicing. So the third chunk is going to be your excerpts, and this also includes like any like chamber music that you're doing, or any of your current orchestral pieces that you're performing, or any band pieces that you're performing. These I would put in the third chunk. And again, a lot of this is going to depend on what you're currently doing. If you're preparing for an audition, then you should be just doing your excerpts for the most part. Yeah, maybe with a like one A2 thrown in, something like that's something Eli Epstein recommends. But and you may even want to shorten your routine a little bit to have a little bit more time to practice your excerpts and just practice the things that you would be practicing in your routine in the excerpts themselves. So if there's a lot of like high, loud articulated stuff, you probably don't need to do that in your routine. You can just work on it in your pieces and just substitute that so that you have a little bit more space to actually work on the stuff that you need to be working on. So yeah, it just really depends on what your current schedule is like and what you currently want to accomplish in your practicing. All right, so digging into how to actually effectively make something better when you're practicing. So there's many different thoughts on this, and there's a thousand different ways that you can cut up a particular piece or a piece of a piece, particular phrase. But for me, I found there's really nothing more effective than just slow metronome practice, and so for for me when I'm really digging into something, I'll try to get something at least like 4 or 5 times in a row before I move up the metronome. And for me, like 6 beats is a good number. And it just that's just where I feel like I'm comfortable. And I'll probably if it's an orchestral thing, I'll do most of those reps with the metronome, and then I'll maybe take it off for 1 or 2 of them, and just to make sure that I'm still maintaining. And something else that is also extremely helpful for me is I always have Audacity running on my computer. And so I can always go back and listen to myself. And because I've done this so much, I have a pretty good idea of what I sound like before I even press play and listen back to it. But if you're not already recording yourself, I highly recommend doing this. This is something that really has helped me more than anything else. It's like looking at a mirror, the mirror doesn't lie. And I heard an interesting point on this. If you were a photographer, would you ever not develop the film? So if you're practicing and you have no idea what you sound like, then this is why a lot of people will like immediately, like a lot of my students go through this. They'll play their solo and ensemble piece, and the parents will record it, and haven't recorded themselves ever before, and they'll go back to listen to it, and they'll just be cringing. And the reason is that they've never heard themselves, and so they have no idea. And just a lot of stuff that you would be working on. Let's say that you were like working on a phrase and you're rushing it really badly. Um, I went through this last night actually on something I was working on. It's going to become so apparent when you listen back to it. And if you're, really sharp or really flat, it's going to reveal itself. Or if, a particular attack wasn't the way you wanted it to be, or the tone wasn't where you wanted it to be in that particular phrase, then once you listen back to it, it's going to become really clear. And so once you get to a point where you even start to like the recording, that's when you know that you're starting to make some progress. So I really recommend doing that if you're not doing it already. I mean, every single phone has a voice memos app or something similar. You don't need to do it in Audacity like I do, but I just find it easier on a computer, and I can just walk over to the computer and I can see all my waveforms and stuff, and I can actually know like exactly if something is getting like if I think I'm playing louder and the waveform is getting bigger, then I'm not actually getting louder, right? So I just find that really helpful. So that's just a little side note there. So about how to actually structure the session itself, I'm just gonna actually go ahead and share something that has been really helpful for me. And this is something that my teacher one of my teachers, Annie Bosser, showed me, and so I'm gonna go ahead and just share my screen. So this is my current practice schedule. Ooh, you were viewing the inner workings of my mind. So, so you'll see that it's color coded, and like I said, it's broken up into these three different blocks. So you have the first block. This doesn't really change for me unless I have a concert that day and a particularly heavy concert at that. I do have an abbreviated version of my routine that I do. And I didn't mention this earlier, but my routine is basically a combination of um, Andrew Bain's stuff and Annie's stuff, and with my own stuff mixed in, and just it's going to become very personalized. I would say even if you find a routine that you like, you're going to end up changing it throughout the years, or even within a couple months. To do it the way it's printed at first, and then you can get an idea of how it feels for you, if it's too heavy or too light, if you need to do more of one thing or another, and you're playing, like I said, for me, like if I know I need to work on the mid register a lot, so I have some of that in there. So this is where that goes in the first routine or the first block, and then take a bit of a break. For me, I usually like to put about 2 or 3 hours in between that and the next session. And then these are my excerpts that I'm working right now for the Detroit Opera second horn audition that I'm doing. So yes, there's some Votek on here. It's super fun. Maybe maybe if I get to 50 subscribers on YouTube, I'll post a video of me playing that excerpt because that one's pretty crazy. Um, but these are, oh shoot, I don't want all of Votek. So what I've done is I've put about 3 excerpts in every block. And the way this works is if I feel like I'm getting good progress done on one of the excerpts and I move on to the next one, then I'll go to a third excerpt. And if I feel like I need a little bit more time, I'll just stay on that particular excerpt until I feel like I'm making progress on it, and then I'll move on. And so, yeah, about 3 to 4 excerpts per block is what I usually do. And again, if you're doing etudes or solos, just put those in there as well. And some of these I've broken up into different chunks too. Like I have half of the votes like excerpt here because again it's pretty crazy. And I have the first half of it here. So um that just makes sure that I'm hitting each excerpt on every single day that I do this. And not every single day. I'm hitting each part of the excerpt as much as I should be. And this is also broken up into different days. So I have an A day, a B day, and a C day. I don't quite have enough excerpts to make a full C day, so I just keep rotating. So let's say that I made it to the Mussorgsky second excerpt. Then I just start back at the beginning, and then I know then and then on the next day, if I get to my Mozart, then I'll just start there the next day. So it's fluid, but this is just a rough outline, just so I have an idea of again, this helps me to make sure that I'm practicing everything evenly. I'm not skipping over everything on a day in, day out basis. And it's to me, it's more about the weekly progress, and this just helps me to really make sure that I'm hitting everything. So yeah, again, I have every excerpt here. And it's color coded. So the green is those are excerpts that I feel really good about, that I feel like I could just immediately go and run them, and I can just listen back to the recording and make any necessarily adjustments. The B ones, so that's the blue on this chart. Those are the ones that I feel pretty good about. They could use a little bit more polishing. And I'm just working on trying to get them 5 times in a row, like I said earlier. And then the pink ones, the actually the most like it's coming along. It's still pretty far in the tempo, but those are the ones that I've either like not done a lot, I need a lot more listening, or they just need a lot of really slow practice to get up to like really technical things. Or something's like, really high and just I know I need to just work on a particular interval, then I'll put in that color coding. Um, and so that's pretty much how that goes. I also, again, this is because I have this as this is an audition list. I have a listening focus, and a lot of this stuff was unfamiliar to me when I first started it. Well, some of it's not so much. The Verdi I've done before, but like this Go to Dameron, that's not Siegfried's Call. That's a different part of it that most people don't know. So I had to listen to that one a lot. I had like the Rossini excerpt from Barbara Seville. I had to listen to that one a lot. So some of this stuff I've done a lot, like Beethoven 3. I know I don't need to spend a whole lot of time listening to that one because I've performed it and I've um also just studied the excerpt a ton. Same thing with like Shostakovich 5. I played it a couple times and I've done that excerpt on like every audition. So um yeah, if you would like a blank copy of this, so you can apply this into your practicing, just go ahead and say so in the chat. Just say me or something like that, and I will send it to you directly on Facebook. Um, great. So we're at about 30 minutes, and I'm going to just go over to the Facebook page. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I just want to make sure that nobody has asked any questions over there. Why is it showing it? Okay, I don't see any questions. So, we have just a couple people on the chat. If you guys have any questions, it's actually there's few enough people. If you want to, you can unmute and just go ahead and ask your question. I can answer it live now. Or if you'd rather just drop it in the chat, that's okay too. No, no, it's okay. You can always ask, you can always message me directly or just make a post on the page if you have any questions about that. Oh, other thing I was going to say, and again, this is just helpful for me. I do find that if I structure my practicing, so going back to that schedule, I have it set up so it's pretty much all high, low, high, low, high, low. This just makes it for me that I'm not just like putting too much strain on my face and just doing like a bunch of high excerpts in a row. Even if I'm doing a principal horn audition, like if I don't necessarily want to go back to back with like Beethoven 7, Ravel Piano Concerto, and like Haydn horn signal. Like if I find it helpful to put some more mid-register excerpts in there, like maybe I'll put a Shostakovich 5 in the middle of there, or like a Brahms excerpt that's a little bit lower, and not quite so taxing. That helps me just to maintain fresh throughout my practice sessions as well. Um, and then the other thing I will mention, I talked about this a little bit in a post I did earlier, as far as just focusing and being accurate and learning to be accurate when you're playing. I do find that probably 95% of accuracy is due to focus. So if you're really focusing on something and you're hearing it, and I know this in my own playing too, my mind starts to drift off. That's when I miss. If I'm really dialed in and I'm hearing every single pitch, and hearing it as the exact sound that I want, I will be so much more accurate. Katie Woolley talks about this in Train Your Own Hero. She talks about how she doesn't play anything before she hears it in her head. Every single time she goes through a repetition of something, she always hears the exact version of it that she wants in her head. And so for me, it's really easy to get into the horn player thing of just like trying to smack your head against the wall and loop it a bunch of times and get it right. But just take your foot off the gas a little bit and just really focus on the high quality reps. And also something that I found really helpful is playing along with recording. So let's say that I'm working on a particular solo in a piece that I'm performing. I'll put on the recording, and for me, if I can nail it twice in a row with the recording, making myself actually sit through the rest or play the part that comes right before it, I'm good. I don't need to necessarily do it the 4 or 5 times in a row, like I was saying. To me, that doing that sort of mental rehearsal and making myself put myself into that mental state is a lot more important. So, just wanted to end you with those thoughts. And if again, if you have any other questions that you want to ask for me, you can just go ahead and send me a message personally, or you can just post it in the group and I'll get to that. If you're interested in working with me on a one-on-one level, I am really happy to announce that I'm starting up an online program. And so if you want to know what that looks like, I'm doing a free strategy session with anybody who is looking to work with a teacher one-on-one And again, particularly if you are the type of person who's been really struggling with specific issues over your entire playing life, that's really what I'm here for, to help you get through those things. So we'll just jump on a call and see if we're a good fit for each other. And yeah, that's it. So thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate it. It's been fun putting these talks together every Saturday. I look forward to keeping this going in the future. So this is Luke Ticka with Trench Run Rescue signing off.